Hi everybody, Bill Hoy, back again. What in the world's going on? My YouTube channel, talking about addiction and getting into. I did a lot of work on this. I was writing a book on it. I gave up. I quit because I realized that unfortunately the majority in society don't want to get better. They don't want to know the truth. You know, they just want to suffer. I mean, I really don't know how else to put it. They just want to suffer, and I got discouraged and I stopped. But I'm picking this work back up, because I think this, dealing with addiction is the root of all the problems in our society, and we're going to really get to a lot of points here with addiction. I'm also going to talk about this disease of addiction, which, let me tell you something, it's this disease of addiction. And once again, let me be clear here. I was, after many years of bouncing in and out of treatment centers, so-called treatment centers, and 12-step programs, I guess the rooms as it's called, I finally went to a treatment center, a so-called treatment center, and down in Florida, and I jumped in headfirst into the 12-step program, went through all the 12 steps, and stayed what is called sober for a year and a half, and I forget where I was going with this. There's so much going on. I probably should start just writing down a little bit of cue cards from you, a little bit of format from you. Probably that's what I do. But just giving it a little history, and I worked in a treatment center, and I also tried to get involved in community groups, and I just got discouraged. I just said nobody cares. Nobody really cares. But I care. I care about people, and I want to bring this to the world, and I want people to know and understand this, and know that you don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You can get out of this. But it's about mind, body, and spirit. You got to heal your soul. You got to heal your body, your mind, your spirit. You got to start to learn more about how to love yourself and value yourself. I mean, that's the big one. And once again, if you're in a recovery group and things are working out for you, by all means, look, discern for yourself. Think for yourself. Don't just believe what I say. I'm not trying to start an addiction cult or something. I just want to tell people the truth, and I want people to recover, really recover. And I know I'm from Ocean County, New Jersey, and I know us here in Ocean County, a lot of people suffer. A lot of people suffer. I mean, a lot of people, here in Ocean County, whose parents say, "Oh, I gave them everything they needed," and all that stuff. Obviously not. Look what they're doing. I mean, really think about it. I mean, these individuals are basically almost playing Russian roulette every time they're using these drugs. And you got to remember, most of these overdoses come from a result of mixing of drugs. I can't tell you how many times in a treatment center I would have guys tell me that they would drink alcohol, and then soon as then they would get some opiate or something like that, and they would go down. I can't tell you how many people in the treatment centers would tell me, about their friends overdosing, and what they always said. They always told me they had alcohol prior to it, or some other drug. These drug overdoses are from a mixing of drugs. Not to mention these extremely dangerous drugs. And look, I'm going to tell you something, people. I mean, you think these drug companies care about people? I mean, come on. Here we are in the depths of opiate overdose pandemic. And these drug companies are making time-release opiates, triple, quadruple time-release opiates. I mean, talk about the kiss of death. I mean, especially if a person doesn't understand what they're taking. Look, I'm just gonna get real blunt with these opiates here. Okay, folks, I'm gonna get real blunt. The only time anyone should ever be taking an opiate is in a controlled setting, and for someone who has experienced extreme physical pain, like say they're in an accident and they had to get operated on. You know, the use of opiates would be correct there in a situation where they're being supervised and by professionals who know and understand how to, what they're administering and how to administer it. And I'm gonna say something that probably a lot of you are not gonna want to hear. And you know what? Too bad. You're gonna hear it, because it's time to fucking grow up. Okay, I did it, so I can say I grew up. I manned up, or whatever. But I'm just gonna be blunt. Opiates are not for minor backaches and all these pains and stuff. And I understand. I can, a lot of people I knew at the treatment center, a lot of them were in accidents and still suffered from a lot of pain and stuff like that. There's ways to deal with that pain. Opiates doesn't help. Opiates will not help you with that pain. It will not. Opiates will not cure that pain. And you know what? I'm just going to say, look, I'm empathetic. I understand. Maybe you're in a lot of physical pain and stuff, but you know what? You're wrong for taking opiates. You're wrong. And you don't need them. There's other ways to deal with pain and inflammation. I mean, just ibuprofen will help you with pain and inflammation. Ice, heat, good diet. Walnuts help with inflammation. There's different ways to go about this. And I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but the whole idea, I need this opiate, it's not doing anything. All opiates do is cure the anxiety and stress associated with some kind of pain they're experiencing, whether physical or really emotional and psychological. And sorry to bust your bubble. Go ahead, turn off the video. You know what, folks? I know no one's going to listen to this stuff. I know it. But you know what? I'm putting it out there. And if it helps just one person, I guess that's good. I really want to help everybody, because we really got to get this word out to a lot of people. And we got to start waking people up, because we're running out of time. I mean, we're out of time, folks. We're out of time. Our life support systems on this planet, our freedoms, our addictions have painted us into a very dark corner, and it's time to get out. And in the end of my last video, I was talking about focusing. Everybody wants to focus on, look what these drugs do to people. Like, I think I actually started talking about the disease of addiction a little bit, and I do want to go back to see. There's so much here, folks. I should probably just start writing down and start getting a little bit organized. But let's just stick to what I was talking about at the end of the last video, which was, focusing on not what these drugs do to people. What do they do for? What do they do for people? And what do these people value in these drugs? It has to do, addiction, Dr. Stanton Peele talks so much about, a person's level of involvement in an addiction has a lot to do with their value system and how they value themselves. I mean, let's think about it. I mean, if somebody's using drugs and every time they're risking their life to use these drugs, how much does that person value themselves? How much do they value their lives? Obviously not very much. I mean, people use drugs because they get something out of it. It gives them some kind of benefit. It helps them to maybe perform their activities better. For example, this is coffee right here. That's a drug. Caffeine's a drug. Why do I drink that drug? Well, what does it do for me? It helps me get my thought processes going. It gives me a little boost, and here I am. I'm doing some videos. It helps. It helps me out. So when a person uses these opiate drugs and they slump over and they basically go to sleep, what is that doing for somebody? What is that doing for somebody? How much does a person love life who basically wants to go to sleep 24 hours, 7 days a week? How much do they value their life? How much do they value themselves? And you opiate users out there, why don't you ask yourself that? Why don't you take a look at that? And for people trying to help, people with these problems, why don't you want to talk about that? And that's another big thing. People who claim to be wanting to help, these. I'm mainly just talking about the opiate users right now, who claim to want to help these opiate users, but yet they really don't want to really help these, especially parents. See, parents don't really want to help these opiate users because if they really started getting to the truth, they would see the truth that they don't want to see, and that's the fact that, hey, you raised this kid. Look at this kid. Look at your kid. Your kid's basically using drugs to die. So you raised this kid. So what does that say about you? What does that say about you, parents? And you see, parents really deep down unconsciously don't want to get to the truth because they don't want to see it. They'd rather just get smoke blown up their asses with this whole disease of addiction. And that's what this disease of addiction is, folks. This disease of addiction is a cop-out. It's a cop-out. It's a cop-out first for the user to avoid taking responsibility for their behavior and their choices. And I went through this myself, folks. So I'm talking about myself here. Okay? The disease of addiction, in a sense, excuses people for their lousy behavior and their irresponsible choices. No, it's no excuse. Your behavior is your behavior, and there's no excuse for it. In a sense, I just want to. I'll get into that, but I want to just continue with the other side of this because it goes into what I was talking about with the parents. And the other side of this disease of addiction excuse is it excuses lousy parents for their lousy parenting. And you know what? Get as offended as you want about that, man. Get as offended as you want about it. Go ahead, shut the video off. No one's going to watch this shit anyway. I already know that. I'm not trying to get subscribers. I'm not trying to get likes. I'm not trying to monetize. Don't care. I just want to get the truth out, and it's going to go out there, and it's spoken out into the universe. And hopefully, I would love to see people start recovering from their addiction problems, and we get out of this hole that we're in. But it's never going to happen. I'm not going to even lie to myself. But anyway, it excuses parents for their lousy parenting. Oh, don't worry, your kid. Don't worry, parents of these opiate users. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself for what's going on with your kid. It's that damn disease. It's that damn disease that they caught. That disease of addiction. Folks, while I will admit that, especially in the case of heavy like alcohol users and these opiate users, gambling too. Gambling's pretty nasty. That these addictions can put a person in a state of dis-ease, especially these opiate users. I mean, barely eating for weeks on hand, and just not even drinking water barely. I mean, of course they're going to be in a state of dis-ease. And of course, psychologically they're in a state of dis-ease because they're psychologically connected to that to that object, the drug, and yes, it puts people in a state of dis-ease, but it's not a disease, not something you catch, and it's not something that's just automatically in your genes. Okay, it's not a disease, really. It's not a disease at all. Basically, it's like metaphorically a disease. and you watch how these people behave, and it sure does look like a disease. I won't argue with that. I won't argue with that. It sure does look like a disease. Or the way you see a lot of these people behaving, it's crazy. I used to behave like it too. I was never an opiate user, but I used alcohol and stuff like that heavily, and stuff like that, and other drugs. And I was never one of these opiate users. And once again, these opiates just really weren't something I wanted. I didn't want to be asleep 24 hours, 7 days a week. And that's really what we got to get to. This opiate use is a pandemic, folks. And if you're one of these opiate users, try to get yourself to where you can just stay away from the opiates for a long enough time to start getting informed. Start getting informed and start knowing the truth. And for those of you who, are in a little bit of a recovery program, start looking into this stuff. And got plenty more videos to go. So stay up.